I think confidence is one of the biggest lies we've all agreed to believe. Not that confidence isn't real. It is. I just think we've been chasing it in the wrong order. Everywhere you look, people keep saying the same thing. You need more confidence. Confidence with girls. Confidence in business. Confidence in the gym. Confidence in public speaking. Confidence in life. It's become the answer to every problem. But I don't know. Have you ever noticed that nobody can actually tell you how to become confident? They just tell you to believe in yourself. What does that even mean? Believe in what? A version of me that doesn't exist yet. That never made sense to me. Because if confidence was something you could think yourself into, then everyone who watched motivational videos would have become unstoppable years ago. Instead, most people watch the video, feel motivated for 20 minutes, and then go right back to avoiding the thing they were scared of. I've done that. Probably more times than I'd like to admit. You watch someone giving the greatest speech you've ever heard, you start imagining your future, you tell yourself, tomorrow's different, tomorrow arrives, and suddenly your bed becomes the most convincing place on earth. It's almost funny. We keep treating confidence like it's the starting line. I think it's the finish line. Think about someone who's amazing at basketball. Do you think they woke up confident? Or do you think they embarrassed themselves thousands of times before anyone saw them? The confident version is just the version everyone notices. Nobody records the awkward beginning. That's the part social media conveniently edits out. And maybe that's why so many people feel behind. We're constantly comparing our first attempt to somebody else's hundredth. Then we conclude we're just not confident. Maybe you're not supposed to be. Imagine asking someone who's never driven a car before to feel confident merging onto a highway. That would be insane. Confidence without experience isn't confidence. It's delusion. But somehow, when it comes to life, we've convinced ourselves we're supposed to feel ready before we begin. Why? Who made that rule? The first time you talk in front of people, your voice shakes. The first time you go to the gym, you think everyone's watching you. The first time you post a video online, you check the views every 5 minutes like your happiness depends on a number. Maybe it does for a little while. Humans are weird. But after doing it enough times, something changes. Not because you suddenly became confident, because you stopped being surprised. The thing that terrified you slowly became normal. That's all confidence really is. Familiarity. You know what's interesting? People love asking successful people, how did you become so confident? Almost nobody asks, how many times did you look stupid? That's the better question. Because every confident person has a collection of embarrassing stories they usually skip over. They remember them. They just don't post them. Here's something that bothers me. Sometimes people use low confidence as if it's a personality trait. I can't do that. I'm just not confident. What if that's not your personality? What if it's just evidence that you've never done it enough? There's a huge difference. One says you're broken. The other says you're inexperienced. Those are not the same thing. And honestly, I think calling yourself not confident is kind of comforting. Not because it feels good, because it gives you an explanation. If confidence is the problem, then you don't have to risk failing. You can just keep waiting until you magically become confident. The problem is, that day never comes. I don't think I've ever met someone who woke up and said, you know what? Today's the day. I'm finally confident. Life doesn't work like that. You collect tiny moments. You survive awkward conversations. You survive rejection. You survive failing. Then one day you realize the thing that used to scare you doesn't anymore. Not because you defeated fear, because you got bored of listening to it. I actually think courage deserves way more credit than confidence. Confidence gets all the attention. Courage does all the work. Confidence says, I know I can. Courage says, I honestly don't know if I can, but I'm going anyway. If I had to choose one, I'd pick courage every single time, because confidence can't exist without action, but action can absolutely exist without confidence. That's how every beginner starts. Think about the people you admire: the entrepreneur, the athlete, the creator, the musician, the speaker. They probably looked ridiculous at some point. You just weren't there. The internet only introduces you after the hard part, and maybe that's why everyone's obsessed with confidence. It's easier to admire the finished product than to imagine the years nobody clapped. We see someone standing confidently on a stage, but we don't see them standing in their bedroom practicing the same sentence 20 times because they were terrified of sounding stupid. We see the athlete winning, but we don't see the embarrassing losses that happen when nobody was watching. We see the creator with millions of views, but we don't see the first videos that got almost nothing. So maybe confidence is overrated. Maybe we've been worshiping the receipt instead of the purchase. We look at somebody who has confidence and think, I need what they have. But confidence is usually just evidence that they've already done the thing enough times to trust themselves. That's it. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting until you're fearless. Stop waiting until you become that person. That person is built while doing the thing you're avoiding, not before it. And I think that's the part nobody really wants to hear because waiting feels productive. You can spend months watching videos about confidence, reading books about confidence, listening to podcasts about confidence, thinking about confidence, and still never actually do the thing you're afraid of. You can become an expert on the theory of courage while never doing anything courageous. That's a pretty good trap, and maybe you've fallen into it without realizing it. I know I have. Sometimes we don't actually want confidence. We want the guarantee that whatever we're about to do won't embarrass us. We want to know the conversation will go well before we start it. We want to know the video will get views before we upload it. We want to know people will like us before we show them who we are. But that's not confidence. That's certainty. And certainty doesn't exist. You can't control whether people like you. You can't control whether you fail. You can't control whether someone rejects you. You can't even control whether the thing you've spent months working on actually works. What you can control is whether you keep showing up after it doesn't. That's where confidence starts becoming real. Not in your head, in evidence. Every time you do something uncomfortable and survive it, you give yourself another reason to trust yourself. You speak even though your voice shakes. You post even though you're scared people will judge you. You walk into the gym even though you feel like everyone is watching. You have the conversation you've been avoiding. You hear no. You feel stupid. You mess up. And then, nothing happens. You wake up the next morning. The world keeps spinning. Eventually, you realize the thing you were terrified of wasn't nearly as powerful as you thought it was. Maybe confidence isn't the key that opens the door. Maybe it's what you find sitting on the other side after you've walked through it enough times. I could be wrong, but if you've been waiting to feel confident before starting something, maybe you've been waiting for the wrong thing all along.